We are live, we're streaming live on Facebook at Sepsa Africa and also on AK Mensah's War. Today we are discussing the topic transforming the agricultural sector in Africa. And my guests have been Haruna Gado Yakubu, Kwabnakra, and Edmond Yeboah. I also would love to mention at this point that as we are about to begin the second round, where we look at the various actions that we need to take to be able to transform the sector, we would hear from Moses Malaga, who is the CEO of Agro Innova. That's a local startup and agro-tech company. They recently won an award at the Agro-Tech Company Annual Award. So we'll hear from him and he would tell us more about what he does. And I already like the perspective that my panelists have here. Everyone is calling for a technological revolution as part of the ways to see the transformation of the agricultural sector. So, gentlemen, let me start with Edmond again. Now, we want to look at what actions do we need to transform the agricultural sector. I know we've already delved into it already. And so the question I ask you, and I'll be glad if Edmond, I know you're more passionate, for the private sector. I see you as the guy who is more pushing for individual transformation other than government. And so I would be glad if you look at the private sector, including businesses and individuals, speak to the youth in particular. What actions do you expect to be in place to see our agricultural sector in Africa being transformed to a better one? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And see, I believe in a holistic approach to development. And if we talk about holistic approach, then it means all hands on deck, everyone involved. And this behavior of always pointing fingers at the government is what gets me irritated. And that's why you rightly said, I happen to always be at that side. But honestly, I belong to all sides. And the question you posed to me is, what is the role of the private sector in this discussion? And I will put the private actor in three categories. One, the private actor is a consumer. Two, the private actor is a resource. And three, the private actor is an investor. And if we look at all these three categories, they all have a role to play. So the private actor as an individual who is a consumer need to stimulate demand, which accelerates supply. Why am I saying this? We live in a continent or on a continent where we don't embrace what we produce. And that's where the problem comes from. Because if people are producing maize and people are producing rice at Savulugu in the northern region of Ghana or in the northern part of Ghana, and nobody's eating that rice, why? Because you prefer to eat Thai rice. Good luck. Do you want the industry to grow? Do you want somebody to invest their money in that industry when the things that they produce do not find the consumer? So first and foremost, we need to stimulate demand as individuals, as consumers. So we need to embrace and patronize food grown around us. And I give you the example of what I have experienced in Germany. You also live in Germany, and when you go to supermarkets, they have something called regional, which means regional. Now, they promote food grown in your region in supermarkets. You pay for it because it costs €1 or €2 more than the usual one. Take tomatoes, for example. Netherlands produce the cheapest tomatoes in Europe. However, if you go to German supermarket and you go to the regional section, you are going to buy the regional tomatoes grown in your region for €1 or maybe 50 cents more. People do it. They do it to support the local industry, right? And when this COVID came is when we understood the need to support the local industry, because there were no more trade flows between Germany and Netherlands. Of course, it was happening, but it was very slow because everything came to a halt. That was when we saw the need for the regional and local producers because they were near us and they could support us. We need it. If we want to transform the agricultural sector in Africa, it first needs to start with demand. That's the basics of economics. No demand, no supply. So that is the duty of the private actor as a consumer. That's the duty of me and you. We don't need to be always saying eat Ghanaian rice before we start eating Ghanaian rice. If we mean good for the nation, if we mean good for Africa, we will start consuming what we produce. Number two, the private sector is a resource, and you are a resource because you bring in meaningful contribution. So we need to develop interest, right? We drive the economy, we drive the sectors. And guess what? If the whole country is running after the service sector, how do we transform the agricultural sector when it's no more lucrative or attractive to the young people or to the general population of the African people to go into agriculture? Because that's why I said I have a problem when we link agriculture to rural, because then people have the notion that agriculture belongs to rural areas. It doesn't. Look at it. In Ghana, we have more than 58% of the population living in urban areas, and urbanization growth is more than population growth, which means the big cities keeps consuming the small cities and makes them peri-urban. Look at Kumasi, for example, where I grew. Many years ago, there were so many towns you would call rural, but today they are no more rural because they've been consumed. And all those lands, arable lands, have been converted to building houses. So that's the threat. And if you keep saying agriculture belongs to the rural, then the majority of the youth who also happen to be in urban areas have no interest because they are disconnected from it. That's why you're telling them. So we need to develop our resources, our interest, the capacity in agriculture. Take Kenya, for example. There is a strong collaboration between the tech scene and agricultural scene where people are using technology to solve the problems of agriculture because people are interested in agriculture. So he's a software engineer, but he's interested in the sector and he's asking himself, how do I use my resources, my capacity to solve the problems in agriculture? That's a private sector act. And then thirdly, you talk about the private sector as an investor. Currently, tell me what is the most common business in Africa? It's an import-driven economy. That's the easiest way to make money. And therefore, every single person wants to import tomato, rice, oil, sugar, what have you. And if you keep importing and importing and importing, and if importing becomes such a viable and attractive venture, how do you develop your agricultural sector? You never end up developing it because you know what is happening? You are importing highly subsidized products from the US, from other part of the world into your country, sort of dumping it on yourself that your local farmers cannot compete. And we kill them. So my recommendation, or what I think the private sector as an investor should do, is that we have the market. We've created the market. We have the demand. We've created the demand. The only problem is that we are not converting what we have into that demand. So please, we should change this import-driven business model, collaborate, and start thinking about how do we produce these things on our own? How do we go into manufacturing? Because once we start thinking this way, we will also start thinking about how do we get the raw materials, and that drives production. So for the private sector, I think if we act in these three different categories and each and every person understand that we have a role to play in the transformation of the agricultural sector in Africa. This is not the government's duty alone, because if government pumps all the money in building the railway, in building the roads, and people are producing fantastically, and you are not stimulating demand, or you are not putting your money into develop manufacturing, or you are not putting your money into investing in the sector, we will go nowhere.
Thank you very much, Edmond. That was fantastic from you. And one of the points I picked and I love most, of course, is for us to embrace and patronage our local food. But I still see a sense of, the role of the government in this to be able to develop our local supply chains very well. You cited the example of Germany, where I also live in. They've developed really their local food supply chain very well, or the community support agriculture system. Let me read some few comments, and then I think that's where I'll pick my follow-up question to you, Edmond. But after the comments, I rather would come to Kwabnakra. Later, I'll come to you, Edmond. Your question, Edmond has looked at the private sector. Feel free to comment on that. But you would then look at the government sector. What actions you think we need from the government, in order to transform the agricultural sector. So some few comments, and I start with one lady from Nana Akosia Amoche, where she says, and how do we support our farmers whilst we don't appreciate them? Even though another comment from Wisdom Conlan, who seems to give an answer to Nana Kosia's question. She says, my sister, it's not as if our farmers are not being appreciated. If you had joined earlier and listened to my learned friend Haruna Agado Yakubu, you could hear him mention the sector had been politicized. But still, I'll be happy to hear your comments. How do we, appreciate our farmers? Because it is true, some farmers feel that, which Edmund has also mentioned, this connection between the rural and urban makes people feel that farming is not a good job to go. Lord Eduse, who is a regular panelist, says, I'm watching live from London. Mouse Fosukwesi, these are compliments, but I should read them. You should be here, always take note. There are fine brains around to help you grow your passion for change and making impact for status coaching. Thank you very much. Lord also adds to some of the threats that we talked about, which Edmund also mentioned, that climate change is also a threat, and lack of infrastructure, silos for storage, irrigation, etc. Edmund, there's a shout out here for you. You are making a great point. Keep it up. And someone also says, I think the question is, how do we industrialize the traditional or local farming produce with regards to time, income, and technology we are discussing? Without improving the monetary value of Africa's agriculture, is it possible to transform the agricultural sector or not? And don't we think today what we see is what we normally see today is a gross exploitation of the local farmers who are the pillars of the Africa's agriculture, as talked by Haruna. So he was making a point. So yes, there are lots of messages here today. Thank you, viewers, for following us, and don't go away. Still be with us. There is more to come, I can promise you. So I'll come to you, Kra. What actions do you expect the government to do to be able to transform the sector? Don't forget, Edmund, after Kra, I would come to you before going to Haruna to answer the lady's question for me, because she came back with a question mark saying that, how do we support our farmers? If you could stress on that in a minute or two for me. Maybe I should take Edmund before I come to you, Kwabena. She feels that we should appreciate our farmers. So how do we support our farmers? You did mention it, but if you could highlight it again, how do we support our local farmers?
So we support our local farmers by paying the right price, right? So like I said, in Germany, people would love to buy tomatoes from their region and pay that €1 extra with joy, because that €1 extra is going into building your local community. So and there are other aspects to it. I find it an insult when politicians in Ghana, I have to tell you this. One day I saw a status of a friend where somebody was vying for political position somewhere in the northern region, and the person is claiming to make that place the food basket of Ghana, and the strategy is they want to share hoe and cutlasses. Can you imagine this? This is an insult, because if we are still in this paradigm, and if what they produce even doesn't get to the market, then what is the value, or where is the value? So maybe it will be answered by the other panelists in what the government must do. But when it comes to the private sector, we should be ready to pay meaningful prices for what we consume.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, Kwabena, over to you. What do you expect from the government?
Edward, I really admire your submission. It's been really wonderful. Haruna too, you did amazing. As Edmund indicated, this cannot be a one-man show, right? There should be it's a collaborative exercise. The government plays a role. The private sector or individuals will also play a role as well. So, in terms of government ways of actually improving or helping the sector, I think these are things that we already know. Like it's there. I don't know whether we just don't pay attention to them, or they just see it, but because of politics, we try to just dump it somewhere. The first point that I will make, of course, I wouldn't, submit too much. The first point that I will still make is investment in research and development. research and development. I don't know why, but it seems like Africa, we seem to care less or little about research. But that should be the basis of any policy. You can't just sleep, get up one day and say, hey, we're going to do this. We should invest in research, because it's from the research that Haruna is going to help us, develop that vaccine or whatever to help cure animal diseases. It's from that research that we're going to have new varieties of crops. From the research that we're going to have new breeds of animals, right? Fast growing and all that. So if government invests in that, it's something that is going to help. And you just don't also invest in there and forget about it. We should make sure that there is a transition from that research phase where we the people in maybe academia will be reading our research papers, and you see that disconnect between the research paper and policy. We should government should try as much as possible, invest in their research. We get the research findings, give it to our extension agents, which means we got to build the extension system too, to be delivered to the farmers, or to be delivered to the right people that matter. So one is investment in research. That's one government action that I will point to. And of course, this takes me back to my marketing thing that I was talking about. And Edmond also bring that in. Infrastructure development. To pay the farmer, or to honor the farmer by paying the farmer the right price, the infrastructure should be in place. If I am me being a buyer, I get to the village and I know that I'm going to struggle to get the produce out from that rural community to Accra. You think that I'm just going to pay the right prices for the farmer? No, because you are going to give reasons to the farmer as to why you are paying that farmer $1 less, because you're going to struggle to get the produce from the farmer to the consumer, the final consumer. So yes, government investment in infrastructure, road network, you build these storage facilities to ensure that there's all year round, availability of the particular produce, and also make sure irrigation systems are in place so that we don't become, rainfall dependent community. But there should be irrigation facilities in place to also ensure all year round farming. And the other point that I also make is that risk mitigating, and I'm still talking about the production, you produce, and the infrastructure will help you to also solve some of the marketing issues. So in terms of production, that risk mitigating tool that we use, which is crop insurance. Because if I am a young farmer and I'm a young guy and I want to go into farming, I'm also thinking about the risk that is involved. Like Edmond started by saying, people were praying, like they pray to God that, we should receive rainfall, right? We want sunshine, right? It's good to pray, but it shouldn't be like that. We should have some irrigation facilities in place, and also risk mitigating tools. So if I'm going into production, I know that if I produce and even lose or fail, of course, my crop insurance that I had purchased before or prior to production is going to bail me out, even if I'm not going to get everything. So with that in mind, and I was reading the paper by Dean Callan, Professor Chris Udry, and they did some research in Northern Ghana where they said if you actually relax the constraint of credit, and I'm not even looking at the credit aspect, and also insurance, like that risk factor there, let's say rainfall failure and all that, you relax those constraints, man, people are actually ready or willing to take on more riskier enterprises in agriculture. People are really ready because I know that I'm covered. So if government invests or look into that line by ensuring that there is some right or some sort of risk mitigating tools like crop insurance there for farmers to purchase, even if it's at a subsidized price or even if it's at the right price, I'm sure some people will still purchase if it's such things are available for people to purchase. So another thing is also that. And also, I would say we should also ensure that as government should ensure is trading, especially among the African countries. We cannot do away with trade, right? We should specialize in what we can do best, of course. Not always all the time though, but in most cases you want to specialize in what we can do best. But if the right infrastructure is also in place and connecting countries with ease of movement, like you guys in Europe, when I was in Europe, I was able to go to Switzerland to see a friend, well, Paul. Albert came around. I went to another, I think UK or something. Yeah. If all those things that connection is there without any struggle, we can facilitate such things. Can facilitate and help with agricultural transformation. Ivory Coast produces something, Ghana also produces something, what we do best, and then we allow trade to move as well. But such things can be facilitated. These are actions that government need to take. The private sector alone cannot manipulate that. There should be some restrictions, less restrictions in terms of exchanging products and stuff like that. And we should try, government should try as much as possible. Of course, I like that idea, Nanado's one idea of one district, one factory, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is back to industrialization, right? We're trying to maybe add value to whatever we produce and things like that. But we should do it right. We shouldn't just let that politics, be like, oh, I am NPP government and I want votes and I want to do this. We should do it right. If we're implementing it, it should be something that will come and stay, right? Because those things adding value to whatever we produce, even get a lot of people out of this smallholder farming, right? You put them in the supply chain, like marketing chain or the supply chain, adding value addition and all that. And when that happens, you have only a tiny people or a tiny fraction of the population actually doing the production, and the rest will be, hanging around what agriculture has to offer. So government, key things, research and development, insurance programs should be in place. And also we should ensure that extension is working and infrastructure development. These are the things that, of course, there's more, but I think
absolutely. Thank you very much, Cry, and I agree with you with most of the things that you said. My pick is only on the South-South trade that you encouraged, and I hope that the African continental free trade that has been started will be something good. And the insurance bit, it's a pity that, like you said, all the solutions that you are giving here, they are known, but they are not being implemented. Perhaps citizens should be demanding, more accountability from our policymakers. So
if you would allow me to just say one word on the insurance, because it's a key part of my PhD, and it has been found that this is one of the very essential things that if you take out of the way, it will transform agriculture in Africa very fast. Because think of it, people want to go into agriculture and they think, what if? And the what if is because our agriculture is so naturally or weather reliant, in that it looks like uncontrollable, right? You don't want to put your money in maize production and then it doesn't rain and your money get vanished. Meanwhile, you took a loan from the bank. How do you deal with this? And this is why credit is no more becoming the number one issue, because we've had in the past, they've stimulated credit, but what we found out is that when people take the credit and go into farming and they experience a bad weather event, which means they have a poor harvest, they cannot repay the credit, and then they lose their credibility for more credit in the future, and then that's the end of the story. So this is the missing piece, and if we can focus on that, and Ghana is doing fantastic, because I think Ghana is the only country in Africa, if I'm right, to have Ghana insurance policy. I mean, there's an institute set up for crop insurance or agriculture insurance in Ghana. So we are doing well on that front, but my wish is that we will develop it more and we will make it known to the masses that there are instruments out there to mitigate these risks. So you can now go into agriculture reliably to know if I buy myself an insurance and any event happens, I'm going to be reimbursed to be able to at least pay my loan or get seed to kind of plant again the next season.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me also add to it that I was lucky to have been part of a very mini project in the northern part where they looked at crop insurance. I mean, in the area of rain, for as in whether you would have enough rain or not. And then, yeah, and I think that it really needs to be looked at because it was great, the joy that farmers expressed, you know, when we went there to interact with them as far as this insurance thing is concerned. But I'm sure by now it might have even hit the rocks. You know how we do our things back there. So Haruna, what do you also think? I know a lot has been said by Kwabena, investments in research, infrastructural development, risk mitigating tool, and the likes, value addition, but I know there is still more. So what do you think? And I know you have written a piece on Facebook calling for precision agriculture and the likes.
Yeah, and yeah, it's true. I must say that I'm happy that you ended at this insurance side. And with the points that Kwabena gave earlier, they are all important, but the funding was left out. He was more on the insurance. So my next submission will be on the funding, and we'll look at how to mitigate the risks associated to paying back their credits. But I would like to first react to, in a one sentence, to Edmond.
Go ahead.
Edmond, let me allay your fears that when we talk of rural development in agriculture, we are not just linking the total chain to rural development, but we are looking at it as a multi-factor strategy to solve agriculture problem. So you are concerned with the urban and the private sector. That is good. Kwabena talk about the government. So we can look at the two of them at the same time, which are very important. We can't run away from rural agriculture development. We are in Africa, and a larger population reside in the rural area. So with your question, Evans, when you look at some of the interventions that government is introducing, for this purpose, I'll be biased. I'll look at the specifics of Ghana. Then we can look at how the challenges can be expanded on the continent. When you look at the few interventions over the years that the Ghana government has instituted in collaboration with agencies like DANIDA, like the International Fund for Agricultural Development, like the African Development Bank. We have good interventions currently running and some that have elapsed. And there are challenges in the report, the review report that these experts outline. Then we'll look at how those challenges can be solved, which will help in the insurance policy. So if you permit me, let's look at briefly some three interventions that were very good, and then we look at the challenges they face. So from 2010 to 2016, a 6-year program was launched named the Rural and Agriculture Finance Program, the RAFIP. So this was implemented by the ministry. The implementing agency was the Ministry of Finance, and it was supported by International Fund for Agriculture Development. They provided the poor rural people and smallholder farmers with improved access to financial service, technical assistance, and risk management instruments. But this did not, as I said earlier on, did not come without challenges. And we'll look at what the challenges were. In 2010 to 2018, the Northern Rural Growth Program, NRGP, was also implemented by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to contribute to the agriculture and rural growth and poverty reduction in Northern Ghana, where many people or the poorest live in the three northern regions. The last program that I know of that is running, and it will end soon, is the Rural Enterprise Program Phase 2. They finished with Phase 1 and are now on the Phase 2. It started from 2012 to 2020. So based on the good performance of the first phase, the Ministry of Trade now transformed the project to about 161 rural districts in Ghana by mainstreaming it with the public and private institution system. So they've moved like from only funding it on rural basis to connect it with private institutions to help. And this was based on the review of Phase 1. So if you look at Edmond, you see that they are trying to cooperate with the private sector in the disbursement of funds. And this was financed by the International Fund for Agriculture Development and Africa Development Bank. What were the challenges? The significant interventions that were rolled out gave recommendations during the report review. So for instance, in February 2012, when they were reviewing the Rural and Agriculture Finance Program, the key challenge that the model faced was that we should look at a support system that will move funding agriculture on the traditional or the commercial lending system. So for now, the lending system with most of our financing agencies is not quite different from lending an entrepreneur who is into IT or who is into other sectors without taking the risks of rainfall. So Kobna made mention of industrialization and irrigation. When we are able to make the sector an irrigation-fed agri sector, then we should not be thinking about even the major risks of rainfall. Rainfall can still be a risk, but you agree with me, if we have irrigation development, the irrigation development agency having robust irrigation dams, we shouldn't be looking at a dugout that cannot hold water enough. We should increase our irrigation dams that will be more resourceful for these farmers. So now, what I think sincerely is that the funding model of rural agriculture, I agree with the review report, should move from the traditional or the commercial lending system to a more flexible guarantee and collateral system. What do I mean? We all study agriculture, and in animal production, you are used to this cliche that animals are walking bank. I know you are aware of this. Animals are walking banks. So if I'm producing my animals, why can't the animals, a substantial, like a good number, be taken as collateral? Such that if, in case of default, a good number of animals can be taken, then linked to marketing agencies, they will be sold to at least pay for their credit. We should look at a way of putting these farmers together such that they agree to policies like giving out some of their animals as payment in default. So when you look at the crop side, the main risk is the rainfall. So when we take a rapid aggression to build irrigation dams, that can be quite solved. So again, banks to accept that, that's the main thing I agree with. Banks should accept some animals as working banks that they can use to defray the descent. Now, with the last point I would like to make, we should be looking at improving the robustness of our surveillance system in the region. Currently, the major food security threat to East Africa is the invasion of the migratory locusts, the S. gregaria. It is a very aggressive insect, a pest such that it multiplies rapidly. So if you look at the concern of the food security threat in East Africa, it's not COVID. The major one is the invasion of the locusts. What is West Africa doing? What is Southern Africa doing? What is Northern Africa doing? Are we surveying to see the potential of this insect coming into our agriculture farms? For now, I can't chance on any surveillance report that is stating that the migratory locusts can come to West Africa. It is possible, they can come. So we should have that connection between the regions of of Africa, East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, and Northern Africa, such that the surveillance report will be very robust to curtail this devastating pest. So here, the basic thing I'm talking about is disease and pest control strategies. We should have a very robust disease and pest control strategies, such that in this era, the migratory locusts will not be a very existential threat to our crops. If we know that, for instance, in the next growing season, they will be coming to West Africa, then we look at crops that are able to resist the attack of this insect, and we encourage farmers to go into that cultivation instead of crops that are very susceptible to this infestation. So Kobna has elaborated a lot: irrigation, insurance, industrialization. But if you look at what I look at how the implementing of funding agencies and the gap that was determined during the funding report and how it can be solved. So here I will end it, and then if you have a follow-up question, then I add up, because I don't want to repeat what Kobna has already said.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Haruna. You brought in a very interesting perspective. With,
if you don't mind, 1 minute.
Sure, go ahead.
We are all talking about this, but we are leaving out our women. Women in agriculture is very important. The rural folk, if you look at the activities women are doing in the agriculture sector, from planting to
gender
harvesting.
Advocate.
Yes, because women in agriculture is a serious issue that we should look at. If you look at all the data that is being released, there's nothing like gender disaggregate data. We all look at it as a holistic point of view. But when we divide it and look at the involvement of women and how we support them, because they are the vulnerable group. So from harvesting, from planting to even weeding in the northern part of Ghana, I know some women do that. So we can look at it to support them as well in the value chain. I think I'll rest here.
Thank you very much. I probably should also say that when Edmond also talked about the three actors in the private sector, he mentioned consumers. It includes men and women. So anyway, but that's also good to stress on that, because usually it's very important. But there's one thing you said which is very important, and I just want to have a follow-up question to all three. You mentioned something very interesting, that if we develop our irrigation systems very well, we probably would not need a crop insurance. And I know it's because you were looking at it from the rain-fed insurance that we have currently in Ghana. I'm not sure whether we have fire insurance or pest and disease insurance. Maybe Edmond could help me on that. But so, and what do you all think? I mean, maybe to Edmond and Crab, because you made this point, and I totally agree with you that if we develop this, then we don't need this crop insurance, or we probably should rethink our insurance policy now for crops. I'll start with you, Edmond. If you could unmute your audio.
My bad. Okay, so I was saying that we need to look at the types of insurance products out there. You have single peril insurance, and that's when you talk about one event like rainfall or like heat wave. And then you have multi-peril insurance where you look at multiple factors. So I agree with Haruna when he said if rainfall is what we are looking at, then why not invest in irrigation infrastructure? But again, what we don't need to forget is that we are talking about climate change resulting in disruption in even stream flow. So it's not just what nature gives us from heavens that we call the rains. It's also about the stream flow, because if climate change affects stream flow, then that will definitely affect irrigation based on natural sources, which could be what was experienced in some part of Europe, because you would say in Europe, it's pretty much well irrigated, high technology, yet 2 years ago, farmers in Germany were crying. They were crying because the land was so dry. It might not just be just the rain, it also may be the temperature. So they have issues like frost. So what we are trying to say is that we need a backup plan. We need a mitigation strategy. But we talked about rainfall insurance because that's the easiest you can think of in the context of Africa. Why? Because 95% of the farming that we do is rain-fed. So we think if here it's just about resource optimization. Like if you think that going into the technology of irrigation is so expensive, then why don't we look at other alternatives? And one of the alternatives, like it's an immediate solution, is let's think about climate insurance or crop insurance, rainfall insurance. However, like he rightly said, in the long term, if you want to talk about how do we transform our rain-fed agriculture to a technological one, then probably you are thinking about irrigation. But there are so many facets of how the weather can affect your crop, which still might need some sort of backup mitigation plan in the form of an insurance.
Thank you very much. That's a very good submission out there, which is clear. Pabna, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, I think Edward has even said it all.
Edmond.
Sorry, I had a friend by name Edward. Another friend. Edmond has said it all. We even with developed irrigation infrastructure or structures, we still will need insurance, right? And remember, when we are thinking about agriculture, we are also not even just thinking about crop. We have the animal side there, right? There could be disease outbreak, and if you have that risk mitigating tool there, your problem, you wouldn't worry much about it. Or when you are venturing into animal production, you wouldn't worry much about it. And also, even in the crop side, not only rainfall, but when there is pest infestation. For instance, when there was this outbreak of fall armyworms or something. Is that the right term? Yes. When there was that outbreak, I'm sure a lot of farmers in places like Zambia, maybe in Ghana, the places that were hit massively by this, they went out of business. And because they didn't have any insurance policy in place, they probably couldn't come back. So if such insurance programs were to be in place, for sure they would have, picked up.
Okay.
I'm sure a place like the US or a place like Canada, Europe, that you guys are, when there is a disease outbreak like that, I'm sure the farmers, they will worry because of it. Even though assuming I was going to make $200 because of this outbreak, the government or my insurance program is probably going to pay me $180. But in Africa, I don't think that will happen. You lose everything. Sure. So yes, irrigation is good. We should focus there because we depend heavily on rainfall, which is a good thing. But I'm not saying like it's a good thing to have that irrigation in place, but we still would need the insurance. Because of the climate change, we might not get the right amount of rainfall at the right time too. So we still need it.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you. The submission is just as it is. So let me read some few comments, and then I'm sure Haruna might say something. So this one from Zeke HM, he says about irrigation. My submission would be to train farmers on the use of hydroponics. This saves water a lot and ensures the crops are even thriving better. Water is an expensive commodity now. Hydroponics is promising compared to irrigation in the long run. One from Nana Kosia again says, thanks Haruna for appreciating we the women. And then Gabriel Fiakponu says, animals are working bank, but taking them as collateral will be very difficult. To me, animals can lose their value, and so the bank will also be at risk by accepting it as collateral. Another one from Aminos Havamikus says, invasion of locusts and fall armworm. I think he was trying to emphasize what Kwabna was saying. We have one from Professor Enoch Entry, I think, is a regular panelist. He said, proud of you sharing in-depth knowledge to change our world. You should be proud of yourself being part of the knowledge world. Agriculture is the heart of Ghana in employment, foreign exchange, and survival. Alfred Donko also said, good job, guys, but Gado never disappoints. Great submission, KK, from Frederick Kwesinyanzu. And then James Dankwa also is giving us shout out to all of us for doing a great job with great thoughts. Bernard Kwame Asari says, you are doing great, Eddie. Wonderful submission on insurance. Keep it up. Another one from Nana Kosia, good job, one, Eddie. And then, yeah. Let me also say something from Lord Edusa. He says, as part of the actions to take, he says, taxes on farming equipment, such as tractors, fertilizers, etc., should be reviewed downwards to enable the farmers to acquire some of them to aid production. So he has also brought in a perspective of taxation on these agricultural inputs and the likes. Francis Edwo Fair also says, agricultural inputs and assistance is no more policies, but promises. So yes, we have a lot of comments, but I'm afraid we might not be able to read all of them, but still keep them coming, viewers. And yeah, Harun, I don't know whether you wanted to say something about the one who said you talking about animals as working bank, but you can't use them as collateral. I don't know whether that was what you meant, but any reaction to that? If you could unmute your audio.
So Gabriel was suggesting they may lose value, and then the banks may be at risk. But I think with negotiation with the banks, we know that these are rural people that we want to support. Giving them that risk to take their animals to sell on their behalf to at least pay for their credit will be better than just leaving them to the mercy of the nature to look for their own funding. So I think he is right that they may lose value, but even with money, when you have it on you and you are not investing it, we agree that it loses its time value of money in the essence. So it's a good point, but it can be sorted out.
Well, thank you very much. And at this point, I think time is fast spent, and I'm enjoying the show. Viewers are also enjoying with a lot of comments here. Before I come to you, gentlemen, to take your concluding remarks, as we promised, we have Moses Malaga on the line. He's the CEO of Agro Innova. It's a local startup and agro-tech company, and he will share some experiences, in particular regarding technology to help transform our agricultural sector. So let me welcome you, Moses Malaga, to SEPSA Talk.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening. So Moses, if you could introduce yourself slightly. I mean, well, what is Agro Innova? Is that the name of your company? You are the CEO of Agro Innova, right?
Yes, thank you, Evans.
Before that, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you on the award. So tell us about Agro Innova and the award and what it is.
Yes, thank you, Evans. And before I proceed, I would like to say good evening to your panelists. They've made very interesting submissions, and I have to admit today that we the entrepreneurs make use of a lot of your publications to bring changes to the society and also to the lives of the smallholder farmers we are dealing with. So thank you. Keep up doing the good works you are doing. You're also farmers. It's not only the one who's doing the land preparation or the planting. The value chain is long. So long as you find yourself doing something in the agri value chain, you're also farmers, and I think you are proud to be farmers. And also to your viewers, I'll say greetings to all of them, especially to Nana Kosamu, who is also very interested in female in agri sector. Thank
We would have a discussion one day as far as women in agriculture is concerned, and perhaps also on insurance, which I think would be very interesting. I'm sure. Okay, yeah, Moses is back.
Okay.
We lost you, but you are back.
Okay, sorry. So my name is, I don't know where I went off, but let me repeat. My name is Moses Malagan, the CEO of Agro Innova. Agro Innova, as the name suggests, is agriculture plus innovation, so combined, so agri innovation. And I was listening to the panelists, oftentimes there was the word of there was the word technology, agriculture, climate smart farming, precision farming, and I think that's what we are up to as a company. We use simple technology which is meaningful and comprehensive to the smallholder farmers. We use these technologies to bring a lot of transformation into their livelihood, and that's what we've been doing over the years in the life of smallholder farmers in crop farming and in poultry and livestock farming. And it's amazing, very, very amazing how simple tools can bring a lot of transformation. And if you permit me, I can just give a typical example. I don't know, one of the panelists was mentioning about marketing and co. And so we deal with also poultry farmers and livestock farmers. And then these people are concentrated more in the rural communities like Bona Hafo region, Kumasi and co. And the consumers, the hotels, the restaurants, and co are also often concentrated in Accra and Kumasi, the cities. And it's difficult to link up with the final consumers. But it will amaze you, like with simple technology, like a short code, *713 *83#. With this short code, the smallholder poultry farmer in the rural community can dial it on his feature phone, and this is a feature phone, like we call it Yam phone in Ghana. Can use this phone to get ready market for his produce, and I think you can even dial it wherever you are in the world, and you should have access to the short code *713 *83#. You can use to sell all your poultry products, because some of these poultry products are perishable, like the eggs. Within 2 weeks, it start going bad. So if you don't have ready market, you are going to lose a lot of your profits. And that's what we've been trying to do over the years, using simple technology to improve the livelihood of smallholder farmers we are working with. We also have other platforms or technology we've developed to assist them in their farm management. A lot was being mentioned about insurance and co, and even facility loan, financial facilities. And I think some of the hindrances to this kind of engagement had been data on their farming activities. Because if you want a financial institution to support you, they want to know your history and what you are doing currently, upon which they are able to do their credit scoring and stuff to assist you. So we, as a company, we also develop simple technology like the FVS Innova app, which is for crop farmers, and it helps them with their basic financial recording on their farming. They also come with educational hub to give some kind of education to the smallholder farmers, because there are a lot of young people who want to go into agriculture now. They don't get information on how to go about, where to start from, and what to do. So we have some of these simple tools to give them education on at least what to do, what the next action to do regarding maybe your cocoa or maize farm. It serves as a big instrument for their success or for their kind of interest in going into this farming. And that's what we've been doing for some time now. We also have the same platform for the livestock and the poultry farmers, because data is key. Agriculture revolution started with the advent of tractors, where we are able to do big farming. But now we are at the stage of digitization, where data is very key. You want to minimize inefficiencies. You want to improve efficiency. You want to make sure you cut down waste on production. And you can only do this when there's a proper data being kept. And this is only possible with digital data recording. The paper and pen work is very difficult and tedious, and it becomes cumbersome when you want to kind of refer to history, refer to two different production cycles to make data on what you are supposed to do. So as a company, we are trying to gradually use or introduce simple digital innovations to improve agriculture, both in marketing, both in farming, and across all the value chain, for all the value chain players to have access to digital information. And I think some of this will generate a lot of data for some of you researchers who make use of this data for your research works and your policy work. So our work is kind of intertwined. So by way of introduction, that's what I would say briefly. And I also say thank you. Again, we won the Outstanding Agrotech Company of the Year 2020, which was organized by the KN Unique Communication. And we are very happy about that. And yeah, so thank you. And
so
we look.
Thank you very much. Just a quick one. So what's your advice for the youth? I mean, you have gained some experiences as far as this agricultural technological revolution is concerned. And what's your take? You think Ghana, we are doing well? You think we are getting there? And what's the way forward? But before that, if I would read this I picked from my Joy Online, which I think it's very interesting about what you do. So the company had developed a poultry farm management software called Akoko Takra, which enables Ghanaian poultry farmers to manage, analyze, and make data-driven decisions on their poultry business. This is just to add to what you have said, which is very inspiring. So you were interviewed and you mentioned that the company also operates an Akoko Market online shopping platform, which connects poultry and livestock farmers to ready and guaranteed market by just dialing *713*83# or using the mobile app. This is amazing, and you're doing a very great job. So just tell us and educate people that what are some of the experiences, challenges that you have faced, and what would you say to the youth who are also interested in doing what you're doing, briefly?
Yes, thank you, Nivans. Introducing anything new to a group of people is quite gradual and slow, especially with digital innovation. I must admit it's quite slow, So that means as entrepreneurs, we have to find many ways of introducing the product to them. And even products which are not even digital innovations, like normal car seat belt, has faced its own challenges that you sometimes have to get police to prompt people to use their car seat belt. So we are expecting to face challenges when it comes to using of digital innovation. But as I mentioned, that's why we are entrepreneurs. So we have looked at, over the years, we've analyzed how best to introduce this simple digital innovations to the smallholder farmers and the value chain players we are working with. And that's why it's very key. At the point of developing this product, we have to do it together with the smallholder farmers, right from the scratch. Technology in Germany, technology in China, technology in America might have the same name, but its content needs to differ to suit the local population or the group you are dealing with. And that's one of my advice I would give to any young agri-tech entrepreneur or startup who want to solve issues using technology in our agri space. Build it together with the smallholder farmers. And so right from scratch, that's how we do. We go to them, find out their problems, and then from there, we are able to convert it into code. So we do the beta testing. In all these processes, we are doing it together with the smallholder farmers. So it kind of minimizes our struggles at the point of adoption, because you know the language they will use. You don't want to use bigger words. You don't want to use kind of technical words for them, but words which are quite closer to them. So as you could see from the Akoko market, it's a short code. So with any feature phone, you can dial the short code and you get it. You get yourself sorted with your farm produce. We have also farmers who are very educated. They can use the mobile app. So we also have the app for those who are very educated and want to use the mobile app. So you give them the options which is familiar to their world. The challenges have been yes, education and level, but I have to admit that a lot of farmers are very educated. The issue is that the educated farmers do not find themselves doing the weeding or the planting. So I can give a typical example. Edmond has made some money and wants to go into farming. He will invest into the crop farming and being maybe in the city, but he's the one doing the farming, investing in people to do, and he might not be the one doing the labor work of it. We misconstrue the labor aspect to be the farmers. So a lot of people are educated in the city and they are doing the farming. However, they are not the ones on the ground doing the work. So if I'm able to introduce a software to Edmond, because he's the one sending the money for the purchase of the fertilizer, for the purchase of the DO checks and all those inputs, he's able to, because he's educated, use a digital platform to keep all the recordings from his end. Yes. So I want to make this clear. A lot of farmers are quite educated. It's only the maybe few portions. Yeah, some of them are also very not educated. So as entrepreneurs, we're also looking at, okay, assuming the farmer himself is not educated, how best can you reach him? He has children whom he has taken to school. So you can get these children, you can train these children to use this app on behalf of their parents. Some of these farmers too are incorporated, they're in groups. So you can get normally the head of the cooperative is an educated person. So you can work with them in groups. So there are many ways of adopting it. It's not going to be rosy. As I mentioned, a lot of challenges in our agri sector. It's not going to be rosy, but it's very rewarding. It's very satisfying, not because we make money, but because of the relief and the impact we make in the lives of the smallholder farmers. The smiles alone is what keeps us moving, but it's not an easy road, I have to admit.
Thank you very much. For the sake of time, but just 2 quick comments because it will help all of us. Kwabna Ebo says, hello guys, warm regards to the panel, especially Kwabna Kra. Please, can Moses drop links to his company? I didn't get the short code, interested in the portrait-based things. I would suggest that you do that on AK Mensa as well, at SEPSA Africa on Facebook, or you send it to AK Mensa who could share it. And then another person said, how can we contact you at Moses? I need your app to track expenditure on my maize farm. So people are already interested in what you're doing, and that's a great job. Let me congratulate you again, Moses Malagan. I know my panelists would have loved to ask something, but there is no time, and maybe we'll bring you another time if my producers would agree we have a discussion around just digitalization of the agricultural sector and maybe insurance also in the agricultural sector. So thank you very much, Moses, for that input, getting practical experience of how we could improve upon our agricultural tech in Ghana. Thank you very much, Moses.
And Evans, if you could permit me.
Just a minute, please.
Okay, so I'd like to also use this opportunity to thank SEPTA Africa for the good work you're doing for the society. We need some of you people to speak for us, especially in this world we find ourselves with so much politicization of everything. You people be serve as checks to a lot of things happening, and we also make use of your researches and stuff. So thank you, Evans. Thank you, Professor Albert, and the panelists. Thank you so much for the opportunity you've given me, and I look forward to joining you oftentimes to see how best we can bring relief and transformation into agriculture industry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Moses. And so, gentlemen, I'm afraid we would not be able to say anything about what Moses has submitted here, except to hear from you, all of you, your concluding remarks. I mean, what policies do we expect? We have this interesting question here because we know today, for example, the MPP is launching its manifesto somewhere in Cape Coast in Ghana, and I'm sure the other parties will follow soon. And what we are asking you is, as you conclude on transforming the agricultural sector in Africa, what do you expect to see the various political parties, put in their manifestos? The one or two things that you would love to see. And I will begin with you, Haruna, first. But there's a very interesting question here I didn't want to ask, but I've been prompted to ask from Francis Eduofe. Do we breed our birds in Ghana, please? He's asked it over and over. So I guess we need to answer that from the experts, whether we breed our birds in Ghana. Any idea?
Yeah, I have an idea.
Oh, okay. Moses is back on the line. You are the expert. Do we breed our birds in Ghana?
I don't know what he means by breeding.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's talking of incubation or I don't know. So let me help him with the question. So actually, we keep a lot of local birds. However, when it comes to hatching and incubation of animals, a lot over almost 80% or more. I can't give the exact figure, but over 80% is imported from Europe, Belgium, and co. But we have some small. We have local hatcheries like Dako farms, like Akachi farms. Yeah. Akachi farms and co, who does the local hatchery of birds. So that's what I would say. A lot is imported, which is not. We are making so much money for people outside. But when it comes to breeding, we keep a lot of birds, and more of them are layers. We keep the broilers for seasonal occasions like Christmas and Easter. And that's what we are trying to resolve as a company, so that we are able to get fresh and locally processed birds for the Ghanaian community. So I don't know if that's what the question was.
All right.
About yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to our producer, whoever brought you back also. I thought you had gone, but anyway, that's a great intervention there. But just one quick one, as you leave us, Moses, someone says, but you are not to answer this. We don't have time for that. But I'll be glad if this technology is extended to the vegetable farmers and also fruits such as mango, watermelon, pineapple, etc. I'm from Volta region and we produce a lot of tomato and onion. So simply put, I think people believe or people are interested if this is extended to other sectors and not just the livestock sector. So thank you very much, Moses. So back to the studios again. What are your concluding remarks as far as transforming the agricultural sector in Africa is concerned, in particular Ghana? What do you expect to hear from our politicians? Haruna, I start with you.
Yes, so with the policy direction, I have three key areas or points I'll be looking at in the agriculture sector. First, we should look at how to reduce importation. And with the current program that is running, the Planting for Food and Jobs, I urge the NPP government, if likely they win the next election, they should be able to strengthen the weakened links of that policy. We've seen the smuggling of fertilizers across the sub-region, like Togo and Cote d'Ivoire, which was a major problem. In our next maybe submissions, we can delve into details how this can be solved. Then a policy on precision and climate smart agriculture should be also encouraged, like what Moses and co are doing. So we talk of irrigation and rainfall. We explain the challenges of low flow of water in the streams or in the rivers. So with precision agriculture, we should be able to have policies to encourage especially the commercial farmers, to have inventions or innovations that will use less water specific to what the crop requires. Then my last point will be to improve the land that we destroy through galamsey. Land reclamation policy should be instituted. We should look at how we can develop a policy to at least reduce the galamsey activities. It's very hard, but I know experts like AK Mensa may have time to speak about that. But the reclamation is very important. Though we have lots of agricultural lands and arable lands, but if you keep on destroying them without any policy to reclaim them, it will get to a time that will be at risk. This will be my submission.
Thank you very much, Haruna. And I come to you, Kwabnakra, your concluding remark to the politician out there.
Well, I don't know if I would want to repeat myself.
Go ahead.
But I would probably say that I want to see them talk about, the appropriate infrastructure that's going to help develop the agri sector, specifically directed at that. And how are you going to add value to whatever we produce? And one important thing, I want to see them show us ways that they're going to get a lot of these smallholder farmers out and reposition them on the supply chain, like the marketing channel, so that you have the proportion of people relying on agriculture or doing the production will reduce, right? I want to see a reduction in that number because mechanization is the way to go. And if you want to go mechanized, that means you're going to take away a lot of land from a lot of these smallholder farmers. So if you're taking away the land from them, you want to reposition them in the marketing chain, right? So you want to see things in that line, like talk about appropriate infrastructure, get a lot of the smallholders out of production, put them on the marketing chain, and focus on mechanized agriculture, because that should be the end goal. And I think there shall be a performance.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kwabnakra. You have the last bite, Mr. Mondiabwa.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad that we had Moses on board because this is exactly what we want to see. Like I said at the beginning, I mentioned the threats, but I also mentioned the potentials. I would say the stars have aligned, and this is the time for Africa to transform the agricultural sector. Guys, we didn't know, but so many people are coming into this sector with innovative ideas like Moses. There are so many resources out there that farming can be done in a completely different way. So my message goes to the youth. My message goes to Ghanaians thinking about going into this industry, but they don't have the information. I say, open your eyes because we have everything. We have what it takes to transform our agriculture. And I would like to quote something I saw from The Economist. It says, if potentials are edibles, Africa would have the best fed people on earth. Like if potentials are edibles, if we think about the fact that 60% of the uncultivated arable lands in the world are on our continent, if we think about the fact that we have the youngest and strongest population, if we think of the fact that now we are well educated and we have young people buzzing with ideas and startups to help the agricultural sector, then the question is, why not go into it? And why not take some of the recommendations that we've talked about here to transform the sector? We all want to see this. They were talking about poultry, and I was so touched because I did a study 2 years ago on the poultry sector in South Africa, and you would see how importation of poultry has crushed the production of poultry in South Africa completely. And Ghana is on the same path. Currently, we consume 3 times what we produce in the country, which means the demand is there, the market is there. We need to go into it, but we need packaging, we need messaging. For example, one of the messages I'll give to young people who want to go into poultry is that don't just go into producing eggs because that market is already choked. Go into producing broilers, but we need to help them with rebranding because eating fresh produced poultry is more healthier and tastier than the one that stays 5 months, 6 months in the fridge and it's tasteless, you know. So we need ways, we have to help them in different ways to kind of stimulate demand. I am for the private sector. I am for the fact that we, the individuals, the people of Ghana, we have a role to play if we want to see this happen. It's not just the role of the government, and these are some of the things we can do. So that will be my message or my concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Haruna Gado, Yakubu, Edmond Yeboah, and Kwabnakra. This has been very interesting. To our viewers, also thank you very much, those of you who followed the show on Facebook Live, and to Moses Malaga, who spoke to us. That was also very insightful from you. Thank you very much for your time. My concluding remark, there are still lots of messages, but my concluding remark will be a message from one Ishmael EOFK. He says, great ideas here from our panelists regarding improving agriculture in Africa. Back here in Canada, people graduate with MBAs, then venture into agriculture with annual returns that are in the millions of dollars relative to their colleagues who ventured into mainstream corporate world, who may be earning their tithes and lower hundreds. Thanks to our panelists for these insightful ideas, which I believe can propel Africa towards growth and development. So guys, thank you very much. And then let me finally conclude that if there is any organization that is interested in sponsoring SEPSA Talk, you are welcome to do so. You can always contact AK Mensa via Facebook, or you can write to SEPSA Africa at sepsaafrica@gmail.com. Thank you very much, my panelists here, and thank you very much, viewers. Hope to see you again. Maybe one thing I should read, maybe for my producers to consider, there's a suggestion here that next time we look at how to reduce post-harvest losses, there's also a suggestion to look at the digitalization. There's also a suggestion to look at the crop insurance thing. So perhaps we could have a series of agriculture talk, you know, on some of these things, and let's see how it would go in the coming days. But we promise our viewers that we will take their concerns on board, and we are here to deliver. We believe in a better society for all. I am Evans Apiakisi, the host of SEPSA Talk. Thank you very much, and then we meet another time. Bye-bye.